Hello again. I'm here today with my good friend Jim Hilty, and Jim is here, City Council candidate running for district. I can't keep any of the
District 5.
Five. You're 5. Okay, against Greg Steen. All
Yeah.
right, Jim Hilty and Greg
Yeah.
Steen. Y'all have been in. You're in this race together, and Jim, you
Yeah.
were on the City Council.
Yes, I was, and I got defeated in 2017 by a small margin of like 200 votes or something of that nature. But I still continue to work within the community after I left, and there are still some things that I think we need to do, and along with some of the other challenges that are happening around the city today, I think that I have a vast amount of experience to bring to the table, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve some of these issues that are.
And we want to talk about those. So you served one term.
I served one term
From
2013
to 17. Okay. And so it's been technically one more term that you've been out, and now you're
Correct.
trying to come
Yeah,
back.
come
Okay,
back.
very good. All right. And so I know, you and I go way back, and we were on the
Yeah, I
parade
know.
committee. We started on the Christmas parade committee together.
All the
and-
way back to the Chamber of Commerce.
That's
days,
right,
oh my
when it
God.
was run by the chamber. And I remember the day that you told me you were started running for council, and I was the chairman of the parade then, and you said, hey, I'm going to run for council, and I don't know, I may not be able to be on the committee anymore. And I think I rolled my eyes like I do when most people try and quit the committee, and I was like, yeah, well, whatever, you're not leaving, because you handled our motorized
Right,
units,
yeah, exactly.
which was any car unit, anything
Yeah.
like that. And then you got elected, and
Yeah.
you left me.
Well, I didn't leave until after I didn't get elected, and I just moved on. There were some challenges during the election that I had to deal with, and then I just moved on to some of the things that I was doing outside council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, I know we go to the same church. We go to Blessed
We do,
Trinity,
we do.
and you're very involved with Father Pat in the homeless situation that he's
Right.
been tackling. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that's kind of part of your
Yeah, and
platform.
actually, it's funny, coming here to the studio, I passed one of my clients who had recently passed and left Father Pat a substantial amount of money, and that a portion of that money is already to fund a brand new soup kitchen,
Really?
standalone from Interfaith. We're going through the issues of lands and zoning and things of that nature, but that money is already bought and paid for, which would be a great asset.
Was that Al Dunlap? Who?
No, no.
Somebody else.
It's actually somebody you wouldn't know.
Oh.
I mean, I
And
can
you
give you
just
her
left
name.
all
but I
his
mean,
money-
it
all
was
the money
just,
to the church?
I
Oh, I
just
mean,
did
that's
some
nice, I
great
know.
estate planning. Not that I'm
Yeah.
priding myself, but
Uh-huh.
we did some great estate planning for her, and
So where's this new soup kitchen?
it's
gonna
going to be just across the street from where it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the ideal thing is once we do that, it helps Interfaith because it frees up that space for them to expand the rooms that they can help people.
So
with.
the current soup kitchen is Interfaith on 441, correct?
Yes, but it's not Interfaith. It's actually Brothers Keeper.
Brothers Keeper,
Interfaith
okay.
just houses the
Gotcha.
soup kitchen.
Okay.
And of course, with the building, we're looking to be able to have places for counseling and things of that nature, because that's one of the things that are desperately missing here in Ocala, is we don't have enough counselors or places for them to meet people with. And most of the people, if they've been trespassed where they can't go into Salvation Army or Interfaith, they don't get the help they need. That's why we have the problems, and then the police have to deal with the problems, so.
Now you, I know I had Greg on the show, Greg Steen, your opponent, on the show the other day, and we talked about some of y'all's race is very cordial, and unfortunately some of the other races are being a little bit nasty and negative, which I don't really agree with. And you and Greg have been very good gentlemen,
Right.
and he said some nice things about you. And I know that after y'all did Tom Schmidt's radio show, you had a nice conversation.
We did. We had a nice conversation in the parking lot about making sure we want to stay clean. We had that early on, and then we just talked about, well, if you get elected, I can help you with this, and if he gets elected, I can help him with other different things.
And that's so admirable,
Yeah.
and that's why I
Yeah.
wanted you to say that, because it's like you, even though one of you's going to lose, obviously one's going to get
Obviously,
elected,
yeah.
and you still want to do what's right for the
But
city.
we both have the passion to do what's right for the city. We want the honorable thing done. So why not join forces if there's commonality of things we can do.
Right, absolutely. Well, so you've been gone for 4 years, and you would think that I think this in government, because I've served, a lot of things don't change in 4 years. It takes a long
right.
time for things to change in government business entities. But have you seen some changes or some direction?
I have seen changes in the attitude of people. There's been some changes in management at the lower echelon. We talk about the linemen. A Ocala has always been known as a great training ground for linemen for other companies. We're in some real challenging times today with the labor force, where there's really a shortage of all different kinds of people, and money seems to be a pretty good object to attract some of these people away. And if we don't do the right thing by them, either changing some management style, increasing salaries, and things of that nature, we're going to have a problem getting people's utilities, or when the storm comes up,
nobody's going
to be there.
What's your feeling on bringing in subcontractors to do the utility work?
Well, I think if we treat our people right, we shouldn't have to. But we already do bring in subcontractors on certain things because of the workload. I wouldn't look at bringing in subcontractors on a regular basis, though.
Good. I'm not a fan.
Because you need the dependability of your employees,
right,
to maintain everything. Sometimes subcontractors don't do the work standard. They come in, rush a job, and move on.
I think, I think it was Jay Mosley, we were discussing this, but there's some issues at OEU. Obviously, they've made them public. We've lost a lot of highly trained, skilled linemen that we've spent 7 years investing in, and then they go on to other places to be subcontractors for more money.
Right.
And they, of course, have some complaints that they're not being treated fairly, and I'm sure there's two sides to every story. But, the
interesting thing is you're competing against the private sector. Obviously, they got more dollars than the public sector, because the only way you can get dollars is to raise taxes or increase your services. We have 4 right now enterprise funds that are making money for the city, but again, it may not be enough going into the general fund. But usually when they leave the city, they lose their pension opportunities. And I know that's changed over time. But when you go to the private sector, there are no pensions.
Right. Well, I think they change, isn't that part of the complaint, that they changed their pension to like a hybrid 401k?
That is correct. And, again...
Were you on the council when that happened?
No.
Okay.
But this is where my financial experience comes in, because having to work with people to try and figure out how do you retire in a very comfortable manner. And knowing that way back in 1980, the government changed the rules and took the responsibility for retirement off of corporations and put it on individuals. It was called the 401k. Back then it was a thrift and savings plan. Now it's the 401k. But because of what's happened, pensions are underfunded. So you've got to do something like that. Otherwise, you're going to have people that are on pensions that can't go back to work lose, or they're going to get a reduction in their pensions. So it's really to kind of boost that up. It's not that the city or anybody was trying to do this, because you can look at a lot of municipalities that are all underfunded, and there's changes that have to be made. It's not easy, but now you're contributing money that you never contributed before.
So contributing it to the pension or to this hybrid?
To the hybrid.
Explain that to me, because I don't really even understand that.
Okay. The hybrid, as best I understand, is that you've got your pension liability by the corporation, then you got your 401k that you're contributing to. That 401k is yours. Those are your dollars going into it. They cannot take it away. And they are now matching dollars into that fund rather than contributing more to that pension. Eventually, over time, everybody will be probably on the hybrid plan will go away, unless, again, the pension liability subsides, where we've had a good market. And those pension plans,
because I think what I understood was part of their issue was they want their pension back, and it doesn't look like it's going to ever come back.
I don't see it ever coming back, and that's not what I would love to bring the pension back. But again, because of liabilities, and I use my own family as an example. As we talked before, I got a 95-year-old father drawing from the union pension, and I got my younger brother drawing from the union pension. And of course, you can equate the same thing to Social Security. They're both on Social Security.
My father was the carpenters union in New Jersey. He lived off that pension till he died.
When they were putting money away at their age and all that stuff, now they never expected people to live as long as they are. And now you got 2 generations on pensions. So you've got to make some of these changes in order to make sure that people can continue to get their pensions. It's a real challenge.
It is a real challenge, and so we probably should mention what you do.
Okay, well, I spent 30 years as a financial advisor for Edward Jones. I came to Ocala 31 years ago and established the business. I grew it to a $150 million business, and I just recently sold it back, if you will, to Edward Jones under a 4-year contract where I advise advisors. I don't advise people anymore, I advise advisors. So it was pretty successful. I'm happy with what I did for people. I've got a lot of people and a lot of families that were able to retire and then pass money on to their families. So I fully understand the nature of the beast of those things there that people don't necessarily understand actuarially about the obligations that they have and how they have to fulfill it. other people say, well, I got a pension. Well, that doesn't mean it's forever.
That's right.
Because if it's not funded properly, which we have a lot of underfunded
Right,
pensions,
sure.
and it's not just in the public sector; it's in the private sector as well. So those are challenges that we had to deal with in all aspects of people in retirement, and to try and make sure they can stay in retirement.
Right, exactly. Well, so there's been a couple of, since you've been off, so you're kind of sort of, you could be perceived as sort of an incumbent. You served, and now you're
Right.
running again, and but there was a 4-year lapse where a lot of things happened, and of course one of the things that recently happened, other than the Ocala Electric Utilities situation that's unfolding right now, was the termination of Shane Alexander.
Correct, right.
And everything that went along with that. What do you have an opinion on that matter?
Well, obviously, my opinion is that it was done improperly. Again, I'll go back to my experience when I was on council. I was president of council when Greg Graham had some issues in Washington, D.C. Obviously, lawsuits were filed. Had a conversation with the mayor, and at that time, Sandra Wilson, who was the HR deputy assistant manager, and after we got off the phone with a labor attorney in Tallahassee, I asked the mayor to put the chief on administrative leave. He wouldn't do that because he felt that was like admitting guilt, and that's his own opinion, which is fine. But Sandra sat there and didn't say anything like, Jim is right, this is what we need to do.
And she was the HR director at the time.
And she was the HR director at the
She's
time.
currently the city
So,
manager.
fast forward, Greg put himself on administrative leave because he recognized that's what had to happen. If there were challenges with Shane, that should have been the first step, not to fire him and then also go behind council's back. Because nobody, as far as I knew anything about it until after the fact.
So basically, how do you feel like if you were still on council, how would you have addressed it with Sandra?
Well, I would have, obviously I would not have had the lynch mob type meeting that we had somehow, but that was the council president that did that, not finding fault in any way, shape, or form what people do, but that's what he did. I would have found another way to get the council together with her, and get some answers. And unfortunately, she's not giving answers to the public. Anytime somebody comes in on their 3 minutes, there's
you make a very
feedback.
valid point, because I sat through the first few meetings after that happened, and she never really did address anything.
She has yet to address
Did
it.
she?
Has
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's kind of a different scenario now that you kind of pointed it out to me, because I don't recall her really making any kind of reports or
She's
about
not,
anything.
no.
And coming from the school board where the superintendent actually didn't lead the meeting but was constantly questioned throughout a whole meeting, and
Right.
and John Zobler was that way. He was
Right.
very interactive with the council.
John Zobler had terminated a employee from head manager from OEU. Now, I wasn't there when it happened, but I'm sure John Zobler went through the right channels before he did let Mike go.
Even though it's within their ability to be able to terminate
Absolutely,
somebody,
yeah.
but
And
and in this particular case, that's where the grievance comes in with Shane Alexander. Obviously, his firefighter bill of rights were
Right.
violated. He did not get due process, although she maintains that she didn't need due process,
Right,
but
correct,
he falls
yeah.
under that certain firefighter rights. So
Yeah.
it's a tricky situation.
It is. And as you know, I sit on lots of boards around town, and all of these boards are governance boards, and we can't tell the executive director who to hire or fire just because we don't like them or whatever. We may, that's up to the executive director, and then we deal with it during the executive director's review, or in this case here with the review of the city manager. That's the proper channels. Now, it may be before the review, but those are the proper channels to be followed. So, in my mind, nothing was followed correctly.
Nothing was followed. Yeah,
so.
it's a shame that happened. I hope, and that's going to fall, I think, to a new council.
Right.
You may get elected, and y'all are going to have to still deal with that, because
Well,
I'm
absolutely.
sure lawsuits are coming.
I'm not saying we're going to terminate her right away or anything like that. She may stay on. She may have.
You're going to have lawsuits, I think, either way.
Right.
You're going to have Shane Alexander file lawsuits or Sandra Wilson file lawsuits,
And
it's
she
gonna
may have
cost
more
the city.
documentation with it than what I
Right.
know. That's what we need. One as the public, but also as the council people, is what is the real justification for that? If you had a glowing report in January, now all of a sudden you had all these
Right.
challenges.
I know.
Where and how did that happen? That go back 2 years or whatever.
And then, I have made horrible jokes on the Marion County Political Forum about the notebook paper Ken Whitehead made
Right.
a lot of. I feel, and this is only my opinion, because I'm not trying to be accusatory, but it does seem like they were after the fact, handwritten notes. When we live in a
yeah.
system where everything is done electronically, and there is a form,
Right,
for evaluation forms and different things that I'm sure
yeah,
the city
yeah.
has.
Not
part of the
defending him in any
protocol.
way, shape, or form, but I've been in many meetings with Ken Whitehead through these homeless things, and he takes very detailed notes.
Detailed with his
Yeah,
notebook paper and his
does.
trapper keeper.
But I don't think this was the
bless
same
him.
quality notes at all.
No, and like you said, Shane had stellar reviews right up until
Right.
right before this all happened, and it's a blemish on the city of Ocala,
It is,
and
yeah.
And I feel like we raise our children, we educate our children here in public school, and we want them to go on to college or the military or into the workforce, and then we want them to come back and serve
Right,
us as
yeah.
our leaders, our doctors, our lawyers, our engineers, our linemen, our policemen, our firemen. And what's now to say you become a firefighter, at a rookie firefighter, rookie police officer, lineman, you work your way up, and you can't you get fired on a whim.
Yeah, that's
and
not
it
good.
doesn't
Yeah,
get
it doesn't set a good precedent
yeah.
for people at all to say, hey, I can look forward to a future here.
yeah, and of course we want our kids to come back.
And I think we
serve
all
us.
know in the OEU there's probably lots of families, second generation.
Oh, tons of them.
yeah.
And it was same with the Ocala fire. I mean,
sure.
We have a lot of family history that stays within the city,
yeah.
and you don't want to lose that. But so tell me some of the other boards that you serve on. I know you're quite community active.
Let's see. I serve on the Salvation Army Board. Been on that for many, many years. I serve on a board called Saving Mercy, which again is a Father Pat project. We have a motel/RV ground out on I-75 and 40, and currently right now we're assisting 15 homeless people, and we have about 35 or 40 other people, but they are renting by the day. Now they are one step away from being homeless. We have some really big plans to try and create a tiny village and some housing first models, and then get them mainstream back into society. We're not going to keep them there, but we're hopefully going to continue people coming in.
That's great.
We're in the money raising phase like everybody else is. And if you know Father Pat, he'll come up with the money.
Father Pat's gonna he's gonna get the money one way or the other.
Yeah.
We're gonna
But
beat
one of
it
the
out
things
you.
that while I was on council, I got put on to the Board of Governors for the Continuum of Care. Board of Governors is a group of business people, and I was there as the city council representative, higher end people that can make some decisions. And then we oversee the 35 agencies or so that really support the homeless people. So people don't realize that there's that many people out there, that many agencies. Years ago, the Continuum of Care was run under the not the Housing Authority, but the Homeless Council. We did the PPI study, found out that it's time to make a change, and we changed leadership, took it away from them and changed leadership to the city-county organization. It's just a little over a year old right now. And we made some really good progress on different things. In fact, I think in today's paper, there's what they call a NOFA coming out, and we changed one of the requirements, or the priorities, I should say, to go after money and get somebody in that's interested in a low barrier shelter, because that's one of the things that's missing from Ocala.
And what is a low barrier
Well,
shelter?
low barrier shelter is where you can go without any questions. Again, not picking on the Salvation Army, but if you had drugs or alcohol-related problems or anything of that nature, you can't go
They
in.
don't take them.
They don't take it. Interfaith has challenges there because they serve mostly women and children, so they have to be not high quality people, but at least people that haven't had these other problems. The other one that the mayor did, it was a tent city, I forget what it's called now, but that's a high barrier shelter. It's only men. There were 20 or 30 men or so. So there's no place for these people to go and congregate and try and get help. So we've got the funding because there's, obviously with all of what's been going on, there's a lot of federal funding around. So now we're looking for people to build something like this, maybe an organization or whatever to come in. But that will help solve some of the problems with getting people off the street. People really want help, but sometimes they don't know where to turn.
Right.
So I sit on that as well as the continuum of care. I sit on the, I said the Saving Mercy.
You,
The Civic Theater.
I was going to say the
yeah.
arts, something
yeah,
to do with the
I'm
arts.
back
Yeah.
on the Civic Theater. So that's why I say I have a well-rounded
Well, you can come
diverse
back to the
background.
parade committee anytime.
Yeah, okay, I will do that. And then I'm currently the chairman of Hospice of Marion County, and I learned a great deal there about healthcare and things at end of life and stuff like that
it's a
that are
wonderful
really important
organization.
to
Sure,
to
yeah.
here. And you know, we've got a wonderful system for hospice, and we just want to continue to
Hospice
grow.
cared for my dad
Yeah.
in the end, and they're, you know, angels, truly, you know, it's a
Yeah.
wonderful organization. So, yeah.
So that was pretty much all of what I do on the different days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know you were a widower.
Yes.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2 children, and I have 6 grandchildren.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then it seems like just the other day my first grandchild was born, but now she's 16 and got a driver's license.
I have a 15-year-old. I
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
crazy. We're not that old. We're not
Right,
that old.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
it's funny. I remember.
I refuse to admit it. Yeah.
Well, I was going to tell you, one of the first grandparents' days at Blessed Trinity,
Right.
because my grandkids go to BT, and Father Pat had you in as a financial planner, and of course my granddaughter was 5 then, so I was maybe in my 40s,
Right, okay.
and that was we had to
When you-
listen to your spiel, and I remember saying to Father Pat, I didn't want to listen to Jim's spiel. I know Jim. I didn't have to come here and listen to Jim's
Right, yeah.
spiel. I don't need it. I'm not that old. And he goes, you got to start now.
That's
you
right.
better start now. And
Yeah, he's been
so.
pretty wise for this community as far as
Yeah,
what he does.
he's
and all, you know.
he's a great blessing to this. He's funny.
And then I sit on the endowment committee actually for Blessed Trinity also. I handle the finances for the endowment, where people, as you talked about, you know, people leave money either restricted or unrestricted depending on what their goal is. So we handle those funds appropriately and make sure that we carry out the wishes that the donor wanted.
That's
So
great.
I've been sitting on that for I'm not sure how many years.
And you're the perfect person for that, being a finance guy. So
yeah.
so very good, Jim. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming in and talking to me and
No
calling
problem.
and-
It's great
and
to renew a
asking.
relationship here.
It
you know,
is, and I'm going to hold you to,
Yeah.
you know, Jay Mosley said he was going to bring, he's part of Kiwanis and the pancake breakfast on parade day. So
On parade day,
he
yeah.
told me that he'd maybe have pancakes delivered. And,
Okay,
you
that
know,
would be
so,
wonderful.
so if you're back on the committee, we'll have the pancakes actually delivered, because
It's-
you know at 7 a.m. what the
I
parade
know.
committee's usually doing, and
Exactly,
we're hard
yeah,
to work.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but you've always been a great community steward and a volunteer. And
Try to be. You know, I came here, you know, from New York 31 years ago, and I'm not bashing anybody that says I was born and raised here. You know, it's just the way life is for us. You know, and I was welcomed by this community, and so you always want to continue to give back. And I've found that it's really fruitful and enjoyable to do those things, and it's just, you know, a kind of way of life. You know.
And you are, like I
And-
said,
yeah.
you're a good steward of your time, talent, and treasure, and you always have been good to this community, and so we appreciate
Keep
that.
trying. That's all. You know.
That's all we can do, right? You know,
I'm not going anywhere, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
me either. I mean, as much as people probably
Yeah.
want me to go away,
No.
but I'm not. So.
We won't go there at all.
but I'm going to let you do your little pitch as I get ready to close
Okay,
out the
I'll
show and
close
look
the-
at the camera
okay.
and tell them why they should vote for you.
I'll close the same way that I always do, that, you know, voters out there are like an employer. And you have 2 candidates, just like any employment candidate. They come in, they give you their resume, they talk about what they do, and you need to decide which experience is better for what you're looking for. So we've got 2 nice guys with good qualifications. So right now, I would hopefully request that you vote for me, but I understand if you decide that Greg Steen is your man. And hopefully just you exercise your opportunity and get out there on September 21st and vote, because notoriously Ocala people do not vote as much as they need to. And you need to voice your opinion. Of course, this is a challenging election this year.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
It really is. Well, thank you, Jim Hilty, quite the gentleman that you are. So thank you for stopping by, and thank you all for watching.